Oh, this is nice, boys, isn't it? This is like a blast from the past. Sitting and talking about Warmachine as a three. No Dr. Wilkie tonight, or maybe he'll just randomly appear on the link.
He might do. You know what he's like.
The man that needs to be will just emerge.
He'll just ambush us.
That could be quite an experience, actually. I kind of hope that he does just randomly appear. For people that have sort of newer to Flail, Phil, do you remember probably one of the first times? No, the first time we ever did a show together. It was in someone's house, and we were all sat on the floor. I think it was probably about 15 years ago. And we had in fact, I think it's down there in the corner. We had a microphone that we passed round one at a time in the room. And we all had to sort of do a little introduction, then pass it to our right. Do you remember that show?
I think it was at my house we did that.
We've come a long way since then, haven't we, mate? There's a lot's changed since that.
It's amazing when you work in you can get some free podcasting equipment from your job. What you can get?
Yeah, well, that in the late. Although to be honest, that first one we ever did, I think that might have been a Dr. Wilkie microphone that we were using.
It was. Yeah,
that means I've got
he
stolen.
may have borrowed that from his work.
It's literally down there in a box.
Yes.
But it was handy, wasn't it? Because it's the size of like a wallet. You could take it around to tournaments, to events, and it wasn't a hassle.
No,
whereas appreciate some of the setup you've got these days. You've got scaffolding and
War of the Worlds. You got a War of the Worlds like little holder, didn't you? That you could like screw onto it. It had these little legs.
Yeah, little tripod thing. Yeah, with flexible legs that you could grip round things if you needed to.
Yeah, I remember leaning over a table.
It's a good talk up, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's it.
So this was the OG.
Oh dear. Looks like Dr. Wilkie's not getting that back.
We used to use to. How you boys finding the game? This is the first time we've sat down together, the three of us, and had a chat about the game. Like, how have you found it, Gav? You've been doing it. You've been back in it for didn't really stop, did you? No, you did.
Oh, I did. Yeah. So like Rhett mentioned, I think on one of the other casts, so I had a massive fallout with the game by myself and everything.
No
I had a bit of a crisis at the end of Mark III when the change just felt so bad, like so harsh after it became so good at the end of Mark III. And then they took such a long time to get it going. So people playing at the club, it just felt pointless. You know, all this changes that were coming and then nothing to play with. So I just left the game.
Would you consider yourself to have fully quit?
Oh, 100%.
You walked away?
I had a massive moment. So I've been playing the game for 17 years at that point. And it wasn't something I did lightly because I've always loved Warmachine. Like
you were obsessed with Molly Khan in the early days. You were literally obsessed with Molly Khan.
I take it you played in Mark 1 then, based on that.
Yeah. I played from Mark 1 all the way through. And then it was my prime game probably for the last, 14 years. So it's the only game I've really played. So it was a big decision really to do that. So I jumped onto the MCP for a bit. That was really cool. Really like that. Obviously, you guys have talked about how similar a concept it has and the rules to Warmachine, but it never.
It's not as good though, is it? It's not. It's not a great game.
Well, no, it's a good game. No, it's a good game. I enjoy it. It's a really good game.
It's a good game. Yeah, it's a good game. It's not a great game.
It doesn't have the complexity that Warmachine has. So I never felt I was scratching that itch. So what I love about Warmachine is that when I'm at the table, I feel like I'm having some sort of mental relapse.
Breakdown. Oh.
Yeah, there's a breakdown going on because I can't function and process everything I need to do. And I love that every time I play. But it's not just that. You take that away, when you're not playing the game. So you get the app out, you sit down, you're looking through lists that you've made, you're going through different ideas, different concepts, different things you want to try out. You're reading other people's lists, trying to work out their combos. And an MCP just didn't do that. I'd write a team or a roster and then I'd adjust it a few times, play it, and then adjust it a little bit more. But there's none of that toilet time. You're not sat there on the loop.
Toilet time.
Yeah, toilet time with the app. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's PG-13 out the window.
Yeah. It's like this would be a members, but we did this bit.
So yeah, I definitely missed that. So I was at the club and Brett was still playing, so he would play with Andy McBurney. He was playing with Ben and Leo and those sort of guys. Yeah. And a couple of times they would say, "Oh, when you get back into it," and I think I may have gone overboard once with and Bernie saying how terrible I thought the game was. So I definitely owe him an apology. But
We've all been there.
I eventually relinquished my stubbornness and then decided to get my old models out and give it a go. And I'm about a year back into the game.
You had a little dip. You had a little dip out of it. Phil, you've had a longer dip out of it.
Yeah, about 5 years. So I remember my last event was 2019 between Christmas and New Year. Simon Robinson put on a little one day as he used to host. Really? My enthusiasm was always starting to drop off at that point. I think a lot of the community had started slowly dwindled anyway.
Yeah.
The staleness, I thought, of Mark III, because that was the era of you've got to play in a theme force because you got like a bonus 15, 20 points.
That actually was that was a really annoying change.
All the lists were very samey. There was no creative list design, because if you wanted to make a fun list, unique, you're effectively playing 15 points down.
Is that something you're a big fan of, creative lists, would you say, over the years, Phil?
Yeah. I mean, the way you can go on the internet these days and go copy-paste, it's really good. Or wait for Lewis Johnson to write a list and go, that works, I'll have that. I'll have what he's having. Yeah. So Mark III was just not as good as Mark II, I felt. And then, of course, 2020, we know what happened there, and that sort of cemented it that we couldn't even leave the house, let alone play a game. When the world reopened, the gaming group in Nottingham, we transitioned to Marvel, because that was the new on the scene, and basically been playing that for the last 3 years. Dabbled in Age of Sigmar. Oh man,
mate,
you were at the same event
that pulled me in.
Yeah, you were at the same event, so it was one at Nottingham Uni. I was still at nightmares about this. I was playing against, I'll call them Orcs and Goblins, but that's not what they're called, is it, in Age of Sigmar?
What are they called now?
They're all the Armoured Orcs, the Black Orcs, or whatever.
Yeah.
And my opponent had the first turn. No joke, his entire army was wrapped around my deployment on the first turn. I hadn't even, moved a model, activated. I'd lost half my army. I took a picture of it because I was like, this is a joke. This is like a 40k gun line in melee. I'm like, how can you play around this? And I was like, I haven't played since. So got rid of them. Another Liam Jordan special. So got us into Old World. Played that for 6 months. That's now sat on the shelf behind me.
How much Old World did you buy? I think you bought like the entire faction.
I don't know if Haley's listened to this. So
you just bought a couple of skeletons,
a few models, a box art, starter set, that sort of thing. So the 3 underbed storage boxes to my right here, that's completely irrelevant. So
background as well, just noticed it. Is that the European Masters Trophy?
Right, yeah.
Just look how he's got it peeking out.
Yeah, it is, yeah. So I've only kept two of those trophies, and that's one of them. And then so I went.
Where'd you buy them from, Paul?
Stole them off Brett.
Yeah. Brett was well looking after him.
And then it was summer last year. I came up to see Brett and Gav at Stockport. Was it the Nationals? Whatever the title was, it was the one that had element at summer. And so I come and check it out, see what this Mark IV is all about. Obviously, the announcement by Steamforge. So like, okay, seems like it's riled people back into it. So some of the old community were there. Thought, okay, let's go and check it out. And, well, shortly later, I put in an order. I'm still waiting for that order. So I got impatient and put a second order in with a different gaming store. That's arrived, and I think I've had 4 games now in the last month.
Nice.
No surprises. You stuck with Signar.
Yeah. So there's I do tend to pick an army on either playstyle and then if I can actually paint them. So some models is like I'm not going to be able to do that, but I like the playstyle of Signar. Like the models, and then it's complete coincidence that Kane came back out at the point I rejoined the game.
It's just a pure coincidence.
Yeah. We just need some sort of like Haley caster that can control time, and then we're good.
Yeah, hopefully that never happens.
when you're going through the bonkers feats with Brett last episode, it's like, yeah, it was pretty good, wasn't it? Enemies /units within 18, because obviously you have the Squire. have to forfeit one, and you get to pick the order. Yeah,
so you were saying earlier about how you liked Mark II over Mark III, but don't you remember all those mental feats?
Yeah, but they were still in Mark III, weren't they?
She got toned down. She got toned down in Mark III.
Haley got tickled down.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of bonkers casters, and it was only balanced around the fact there was other bonkers casters. You had Tenegra, you can't move. Harbinger, you pretty much can't move, and various others that were just like, sure, let's not. We won't play a turn each, and then we'll carry on as we were.
I don't know. I played Scorn for 18 years in the end, and we had none of that.
You just had Monicon. You had a feature in every list.
We had just one beast. That's it. Yeah.
Were you upset, Gav, when Scorn didn't sort of make a return? There's no kind of like Prime version.
So that's
quite nice, right? It's come back to the game, same play style, same sort of theme. Do you know what I mean? You can paint everything blue still. Whereas Scorn is like...
Yeah, they've got one model left, haven't they? They've got that Solo, the mercenary guy. Is it Belugul? You can take him. Yeah. Is that 4K?
I've been playing Marvel, so this is on you, Gav.
Iron Man.
I don't play an army that can take him.
Were you annoyed? Are you annoyed about that situation? Because
no,
you literally had the whole faction.
I had a ridiculous amount of stuff.
I imagine you had every storm.
Yeah, I had something like 14 Cyclops Savages. So,
mate, that was a list. That was a list. That was a list.
That was a list I played.
It was a very short window where Cyclops spam was on. It was a thing.
I loved that list. Yeah,
it was absolutely on. I remember you'd play at the club, we'd be like, "This is stupid." And be like, "Actually, yes, this on."
It was good.
But that was the sort of beauty that you could have in Mark II, but not necessarily in Mark III.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you would be playing 15 points down.
Yes, yeah.
And that's actually that was the nice thing about Mark II, and you've sort of got that back now in Mark IV. To a degree, obviously, the range of models is significantly less.
Yeah, but there's no spamming now, so that's gone.
Yeah, you can only have 2 of each unit by the looks of it, and
Cricks can do other things, but so most like heavies, for instance, or lights tend to be 4.
So, Gav, you're playing Cricks now, which it still feels weird even saying that.
Yeah, look, I've got my t-shirt on everything. Let's see.
You even bought like Cricks t-shirts. That's how much.
I've had it made. Oh yeah.
Has it got mechanic throws on?
Yeah.
Like I've had them trophies made up there. Yeah. Imagine 3D printing trophies and they're putting them on.
There's only 6 mechanic in here, not 35. That's ridiculous.
Is that what you've been running? 35 mechanical?
Well, with a feet, 35, yeah. That's good.
The Lassa brings a unit in.
Yeah, she brings an extra one in.
Gorshade vibes, isn't it? That was a Gorshade.
Yeah. It beats.
But mech throws are good now. That's the difference.
Mech throws are good. Mech throws are good.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're really nice.
They needed a lot of help, didn't they, in the last edition? They needed a lot of buffs to make them.
Yeah, so I went into Cricks. I was trying to decide on a faction. I ruptured my Achilles tendon last year.
He mentions this every time. Every time I speak to Gav, he mentions this tendon.
I'm playing. I was in a cast.
How did you do it? Fighting? You were out.
No. Wrestling in there.
Say how you did it. Say how you did it.
I was trying to move a skip. It was empty. Just pushing it. Just for fun, that's just what you do.
That's how manly he is. You
skip pushing.
Pushing his skip.
I didn't feel very manly afterwards. Anyways, I was sort of sat around moping and trying to work out what I was going to play, and then all this Crick stuff started coming out, and obviously the models just looked amazing, fantastic. And I was reading through the rules, and Brett gives me grief about this all the time, and I was like, I just don't get them. They just seem a bit simple, a bit. Less complex than I expected them to be. And Brett's like, no, just stick at them, read the rules, and just actually write some lists out and do some synergies. And I was like, actually.
And the best you could come up with 35 mech throws.
Yeah. It wasn't obvious at all. But going from Scorn to something like Cricks is great because it can be just a push some models across the table and fight them in melee.
There was that kind of like. I can't think of a word like sort of slur with Cricks, weren't they? That like they just spam infantry and just run infantry at you. And we think back to sort of like Mark II, Mark III editions of the game. There was a Gorshade list that was notorious. there was scar lists where they were just run,
Yeah.
they would just run so much stuff and then feet to protect it, or
Well,
feet to just make more. And
Gatsby 2 with all the Banes, that was just awful, wasn't it?
Scar 1, we can give more +5 strength and armor.
Just run him
Pretty
up.
good. It's pretty good. Then you got like armor 21 in basic infantry.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. So, but the infantry are good, but their jacks are fantastic now as well, which is really nice. But it was the models that won me over initially. So I've been playing.
The models at the same. Yeah, I've got a bunch of them actually.
Yeah, they're really nice. I particularly like the Cav. They look really fantastic, especially in person. They're a really beautiful model.
What's the name of the Cav unit? I didn't know there was a Cav unit.
And Night Terrors.
Oh, you calling them Cav, are you?
Yeah. There we go.
They don't look like Cav to me. I won't call them Cav. I'd call them sort of
got
like
the Cav symbol and everything on them.
No, I mean just like as
they're not like Bane Riders then back in the
day.
Yeah, no one's riding on them. That's for sure. They're like a ethereal steampunk driven ghosty thing.
They cover all.
They look a bit like the old Bone Jacks, but with like two scything claws, but with flowing cloaks behind them. They're really cool.
So you're on Cricks.
Yeah.
Phil's kept it, gone back to basics. Well, not back to basics as such, faction, but he's gone back to what feels familiar.
What are you in on, Paul?
I've been tricked. I was tricked. I've been hoodwinked.
You've got a Mark II army off eBay. I can't use it.
Don't sell your retribution as Dusk.
What's happened with me, right, is I thought I'd play Warmachine again. Step 1, decide to play Warmachine. Step 2, text Brett. Brett, what's good? What are we looking at here? He says Dusk are good. I said, are they good? He said, Dusk are good. Dusk are good.
Brett's playing them, so they must be good.
Yeah. And wow. So I thought,
Wow's playing them,
yeah. So I said to Brett, I said, I sent him a list and I said, is this shit or is this all right? And he goes, that's all right. So I bought that list. Okay, great. Painted, assembled. Now Brett doesn't seem so confident about the list. I'm like, uh-oh. I feel like I'm having a mistake. I feel like I might have to change my builds.
They've gone through
I've been playing down here. I've been playing with Rob, and Rob's been rocking Grimkin because I had a massive Grimkin army. So I gave Rob the Grimkin. I've been playing a bit of Legion because obviously I've got a full Legion faction. So I've been playing like P Vale, Stagrosh, big Stagrosh, just to get the games in and the reps in and just throw models around the table. Because from playing 40k, it's a slightly different game. I'm not going to lie. So many more things you have to. I don't know. I just felt like I had to just get some models on the table and just roll some dice and get it back in my head. So I did that with Legion, and I've been painting up a bunch of Dusk, which I'm going to be using on this channel, and we're going to be playing. But this box makes me want to play the Flappy Boys.
Oh,
Little Mark's just picked them up.
Yeah, I can see you playing them.
They're just metallic Legion.
Yeah, they are.
Well, I kind of, for some, I don't know, I thought Dusk might be a bit Legion-y, playstyle wise, because Brett was playing them.
They're
a bit Legion-y.
So they still can play a bit Legion-y, but they've had some of the key mechanics that they've been crutching on removed. Because obviously they were very good, so a lot of people playing them. Sort of put them out there a little bit and exposed them to a slight nerf. I mean, I'm sure you've talked to Brett about it, but obviously he's a bit despondent with what's the changes. So I said to him, no, the changes aren't unexpected. So he challenged me to build a list. I was like, okay, sure. So I've been trying to build some Dusk lists, and I'm really glad.
Has he given any an A star?
I'm really glad I don't have that faction.
E minus, do better. E minus, do better.
Yeah. So
we'll definitely get Brett. We need Brett really to get into the sort of Dusk chat. It's one of the things we've like earmarked on the content plan.
Definitely needs to
go into
itself. Yeah.
Our content plan. Together, we're all going to start diving into these factions in real bit of detail. Like what are the good synergies? How do they play on the table? Pros and cons, areas of concern, both in terms of things being a bit cheeky and things being a bit underpowered. And I know like Dusk will be an interesting one, because from the stats they were definitely the top of they were at the top of the pyramid a little bit, weren't they?
Definitely. WTC last year highlighted it quite a lot.
Yeah. Although it's important to say that Warmachine has never quite been like 40k. Like 40k, what you tend to find is something gets to the top and then it gets nerfed so hard it goes to the bottom and something else comes to the top. It's just like revolving door. Warmachine, you tend to have a bit more balance with that. It's really kind of like faction mega dominates and then it gets changed. It's normally like a slight bump rather than...
Did they do changes in Mark 2? I can't remember many nerfs.
Not many.
Not a lot.
So it was a case of maybe a new model comes out that changes that meta, but the rules seem
the dynamic update thing wasn't a thing in Mark 2.
It wasn't a thing. And from memory, it was balanced, but it was balanced because everything was so insane.
Well, everything was so unbalanced that's what created the balance.
That's what created the balance.
But because the game is so finely tuned now that if something is very slightly above the curve, it's noticeable. So they obviously tweak that down, and then obviously that becomes noticeable as well because people tend to take it less.
I tell you what, I have been liking. I've really liked Moraine. She reminds me of Nirvana.
Yeah, she's very good.
The circle caster. Do you remember the circle caster that would just keep stuff alive?
Yeah.
She had the Ravager build, didn't she? That was really potent for a while with all the Than Ravagers, and Brett would play them and just put a forest in the middle of the table, and you'd be like, "Well, you're charging me."
So you used to take the druids as well. And awful.
She seems cool, but I think Phil, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on this. But like, it just generally feels like things aren't as stressful to play against as they were. It's like I was at the table, I was like, that's good, but it's not. Oh my god, I can't do anything about that. I'm absolutely screwed. I have no hope. Good, which sometimes you get in Mark 2. What are your thoughts, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, so I've only played 4 games, so it's a very small sample size, but because the feats are nicer, less impactful than they were, if you make a mistake, you're not necessarily instantly dead or out of the game because, I forgot to advance this unit to contest, so Denegro comes and feats, you've also lost the game, you don't even have to roll dice, you're just out. You've stepped forward behind the wall, out of the wall, Lilith 2 with 3 Ravagors are just blown you off the board. Like, those sort of feats have gone. So if you do make a misplacement or something like that, it's probably not game over. And so there is that element where you can afford an error or two or a misstep, and it probably put you in a bad position, don't get me wrong, but it's not over.
Yeah, it's more forgiving. Definitely more forgiving. But I think that's the changes to the models, but also to the scenario as well. So the scenario pack in Steamroller encourages lists to be more balanced.
Yeah.
So it moves, you have to engage in the center. It makes more for a peace trading game. And like I think Brett mentioned in one of the episodes as well, that you don't turn to a game, do nothing, and then lose. But I mean, you can do that. So you have to try really hard to do that. But you can go to the table, lose the game, but I felt like you've done something. You've had to. People have to put models in the middle of the board for you to attack. That has to happen in order for the game to work properly, which is a positive thing in my mind.
So I think so too. Although I did like the brutality of it. I think that's good. Phil, how have Signar played versus the Signar experience of old? What have they felt like on the table?
I mean, much of the same, really. If you've got a gun, right, you're in the list. And then let's start from there. So that's how my first game was versus Brett, because I bought the 3 army boxes, so I've got basically one of every unit. So I can't do any sort of spam lists or anything like that at the moment. So I was just, right, let's put one of everything in, plus the Kane and the Black 13th cadre, they're in there. So loaded up 2 heavy warjacks, well, Juice and a heavy warjack with guns. So left arm gun, right arm gun, light warjack gun and another gun, and we just started from there. And to be fair, on that first game, it was close. Like, consider I've not played in 5 years, I was happy.
You play Mark, right?
No, this was against Brett. My first game. Yeah, this was against Brett, and it was close. He didn't just curb stomp me. I think he got the 3 points on scenario, but only just. Models are dying on both sides. It was great. Then I played Gav, and that was again similar sort of position. Really, it wasn't completely over. So Yeah, it was all right. There's a lot more. There seems to be a lot more special rules on models these days, and different synergies between different models. So Kane will give the Black 13th a rule, and then Bastion Fault will give the Black 13th a different rule, and it's trying to remember, what the ranges are on those and who's giving what rule to who. So there's those sort of, I'm not saying say complexities, but things to learn and be familiar with your list.
See,
but overall, it's about having
those layers of synergy that I love about the game. That's what draws me back to this game time and time again.
Because of the steamroller and the way the scenarios run now, you can't take the traditional signal gun line anymore because you will lose on scenario. You might obliterate your opponent, but that doesn't matter because if you have one bad round where you've not committed forward, your opponent scores, you then go commit forward, you score on your opponent's turn, and that's the crucial thing that's changed is scoring the opponent's turn. So you think, I'll be all right, and then, actually, no, I won't be, because to be 3 ahead if you don't commit to the zone is really bad. And if you've only got squishy models, then even if you do commit, they just get murdered and you lose on scenario. So, yes, you can take a signal gun line, but you will lose because you've got nothing to put on your opponent's side of the board. So,
what about are there lists out there that will just alpha you so hard that they don't need to care about scenario, or again, is the game got itself in a position where that's not as common? Because again, you in the other editions you would get builds that would just try and blow you off the table, like Lilith, Lilith 2 with Ravagors. It would just try and kill everything you've got, and then
I'm guessing there's an element of that still in the game, but because things like Lilith 2 and 3 Ravagors just don't exist anymore, you're not going to be as effective and efficient as doing that. So yes, Kane and a couple of heavies can blow you up, but they're not going to blow up enough that mech throwers aren't just going to swarm the zone and win anyway. So yes, I can kill a lot of them, but that's not enough.
Definitely. That'd been your experience as well, Gav?
Yeah, definitely. Like that Phil was talking about in that the game, Phil's second game. Like Phil killed a lot. Like I lost a lot of models in that game, but ultimately won on scenario because Phil didn't have enough that can stand in the middle of the board and fight. So that's obviously what was lacking in that list. Well, I think you've got some additional models now, haven't you? So
so changed it up and
but obviously you were falling back onto the traditional sort of signal thing. I'll stand back, I'll shoot you. And I fell foul of this when I first got back into playing in Mark IV, is that I kept losing on scenario because I wasn't cognizant of how quickly the scenario can go ahead and run away from you. So you have to stay alive and scoring and contesting all the time, constantly. But which means that you've always got models either in the middle or towards the middle of the table, which means your opponent's always got something to attack, which is, I think it's a great change.
It could be that, back in the day, you'd have your 12-inch circle zone, and I'd be tiptoeing gun mages right on the edge. And not a lot of things threat 12, certainly infantry. So my gun mages just stand at the edge of the board, perfectly safe, keep shooting, and other things can do that. Well, because the scenario zone is now at flat, 50mm base or a 40mm base plus 3 inches either side, at most you're 8 inches away. At most, but you're probably closer than that. So you can't afford to just be a armorless gun mage stood there because you're just going to get nukes. And the way that blast templates work now, you can't just be, I'll spread out maximum command, which is like 9 or something. So even if you scatter, you're going to hit 1. Now it's one gun mage and his 2 mates, they're just dead.
Absolutely. And because you don't even need to, so even if you miss on the attack, you also hit by the blast. So
you'll probably kill 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, which I think is quite a nice change as well.
The changes they made, again, very small sample size. I'm impressed with it. It's made units, which again in Mark II were almost pointless. It was a Warjack Warbeast game. You take a unit for a specific purpose, and of course you're playing critics, but they were pretty much there to screen your Warjack from being charged by your opponent's Warjack. And that was all there. Whereas now, my Tempest Assailers, the guy medium base with a big hammer and a big shield, they're great. Like yes, they're only a 3-man unit, but in Mark 2, they would have had so much dust on them because they would have been played. Like Kador shock troopers look fantastic. Don't think I ever played against them once.
Yeah.
Now they're probably really good because they are.
Yep.
They're just as slow as they used to be, or if not a little bit faster, because you can now run +5 rather than double.
Yep.
You can still shield wall when you run, and the fast things are slower, so you don't feel like they don't arrive to the game 2 turns too late. They're there with the rest of them, and because the way the movement works as well, where you run one and then place the 2 mates potentially +2 in front of them, they're actually pretty nifty. They're on the battle line the same time as fast troops.
Yeah,
which is really sweet.
It's really good. It is really good how they've.
Phil, we were chatting about this the other night together, just off, just chatting, and it's just so much smoother as well to do that rather than one of the things I've always liked about Warmachine is the precision.
Yeah,
and using templates, but it was quite clunky using measuring sticks to move a 10-man unit.
Absolutely. So having to move 5 tops is fantastic.
It's so I was talking to a chap called Tom Bell. So he's a returning Warmachine player. And I bumped into him at work, weirdly enough, so he's coming back
about on the tracks.
Yeah.
no, he was in the office.
It was in the office. It's even worse.
He came over whilst I was sat in the kitchen painting, and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm painting this."
You do me nails.
No, he said, "Oh, is that Space Marines?" It's a bit like that. So it's a game called Warmachine. He says, "Oh, I used to play that." Anyway, turns out I knew him from years ago. Just didn't recognise him because he lost all his hair. So anyway, we were talking in the mess room the other day. And I was trying to persuade him about how much better the movement rule was, and he's like, "Oh no, I really used to miss being able to like run, infantry all over the place and have some back, the old movement rules and stuff." I said, "But don't you remember?"
Sounds like a Cricks player.
How you can? I think he played Signar and Ret, I think. Anyway, so I said, "But don't you remember how fiddly it would be?" So I demonstrated for him on the table. Like we got some little pieces out and said, "Look, this is how I used to move a unit. So I'd move one model forward, run it." And then I'd charged on the model, and then after then position that model. So I'd put a proxy base out so that it's facing straight towards the model, so that they're center to center, so that the arcs are then to the side, and then I'd choose where that model wants to land, so that the arcs are then positioned to give free strikes to other models. So I'd be then spending ages trying to place that model to then trigger free strikes on my opponent's following turn. Or if that model then had Berserk, for instance, I don't want to catch my own models in the Berserk, so I'd be like, honestly. So I demonstrated that to him. I was like, don't you remember this? How long it took to actually place models with their arcs and things? He was like, oh, yeah.
Because you were precise. You were a very precise man, though, Gav. You're I mean this with such kindness. You're the best player ever. Like, you were so good at this game. Honestly, Gav is the most underrated Warmachine player of all time. You go to tournaments, and if you just cared a bit less about the positioning of the act, you would beat every single person you play. You're absolutely insane at the game. You're amazing at the game.
Oh yeah, I could beat anybody if I had literally a year to play each game. Yeah, it'd be fine.
You just a fraction too long, like just a tiny.
Yeah, over an hour usually. Just as that clock beat.
just over an hour.
Just over an hour.
Team event we played a team again together. I think it was me, you and Brett? Was it a free man?
Yeah.
Me and Brett were like, right. We were looking over, going, bloody hell, Gav is smashing that. Like, I cannot believe, like, Gav's won this. When we go over, and he'd be like, I'm out of time. I've run out of time. I just would be like, Gav, no. Like,
yeah. Well, it's an engineering thing, just like to get things right, And
that's fair. You're a very honest, honourable man as well, rather than just lobbing stuff for. But you're right. It was very fiddly. Even just thinking about
you must have seen this in your time in other systems of the GW variety, where you'd have a swarm army of whatever, and the first one would move, let's say 12 inches, whatever it is. So the first guy's measured, probably with a tape measure, which has got a degree of inaccuracy in it by the time you hover over and what have you. So the first guy moves roughly 12 inches. The next guy moves, he tries to catch up. He moves 12.5.
It's unbelievable.
The 10-man unit or 20-man unit, the guy at the back is moved 25 inches.
I've seen I've seen
Crazy.
people move models up the board with spoons. Just forget tape measure. I've got a spoon. Just scoop them forward. I'm being serious. Just you literally utensils and objects, scooping them forward like they're in fucking Churchill's war room with a big stick. You know what I mean? Moving things around the table. Move the planes to B7. Kids like that with Tyranids just scoop. What's this? Do you know what I mean? It's not pick and bits.
So the simplicity of the movement now helps out the fact you've got a 1 hour death clock. So much.
It's helped me a lot.
And things like
you'll smash everyone now. You'll be a nightmare. You'll be an absolute nightmare.
Your deployment's better as well, because if you've got a wide frontage, that used to get messy, but now you can stack everyone in a corridor in a line, because you only care about the front guy on the first turn at least, and then you can spread out after that. So again, just when you're trying to intermingle units so that you could cast spells on your starting line and see everyone and stuff like all that's gone, because you just go 1 line of 5, 1 line of 3, whatever the unit size they are, and you can now pretty much reach everyone.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know as well, but models in their own unit don't block each other for line of sight now either. So that's really, during their activation. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Every day.
Yeah, so that's a nice change.
Can we chat about these large bases, these big boys? One thing I'm really interested in, again, was I guess a lot of our conversations we're going to be reflecting on editions of old, experiences of old, and drawing relevance to it now. Back in the day, people would have a list with 2 colossals in, double Judicator.
Those guys,
Stonewall.
Absolutely, I got
double Stonewall with Haley 3. You still Haley 2, or still. Gav, how many big bases did you have in a list at one time, Gav? What were we dealing with?
I think 4 was the maximum I ever did, but I played Scorn, so it was compulsory. You had to.
That's a lot.
I think, to be fair, I think I played a Haley 1 list that had double Stonewall, double Disco Ball.
Oh, nice.
Because you couldn't be charged with Haley 1 with a barrier up. So and of course,
5 models. Oh, and a Squire. 6 models.
And a Squire, of course. Yeah. But you can't see her because of all the big bases, so she was perfectly safe.
Awful.
Yeah.
Tell us how, Phil, you can talk about the Signar big boy, and Gav, you can talk about the Crix big boy. But Phil, what was your experience of playing the Crix Colossal on the table? And we'll have a quick reference of its rules and do a little dive into it. But
the Signal one, you mean?
What did
the Maelstrom, yeah.
The Maelstrom, yeah, you said the Crix one. The Signal one. So that I've only had one game. That was versus Mark yesterday, because that arrived all the way from the States on Friday. So I cleaned that up, glued it, magnetized it, and got it on the table yesterday. Straight away, you could feel that it wasn't as impactful as the Stonewall used to be, because of the steamroller changes. It's so you can't be everywhere, and so yes, a large base is great, but because the scenario points are smaller, you can't tiptoe 2 zones or stand on 1 flag and contest another. I didn't have that cheeky storm pod. You go the storm one at the back.
Stupid! That was so annoying.
Absolutely. So after just 1 game, you go, actually, do I want 35 points invested in 1 model?
No.
Or would I prefer 2 heavy warjacks so I could be in 2 places at once, because I need to be in 2 places at once? So you lose that efficiency, because like Snipe on the Maelstrom, a lot of value because it's got like 5 guns.
Yeah. Great.
Whereas Snipe on a heavy warjack that's got 2, still very good, but obviously you're only sniping 2 guns, not 5. Arcane Shield, amazing on a Colossal, good on a heavy, but just phenomenal on something with 60 odd boxes. So you do lose that sort of power and efficiency. But in the first game versus Mark, he couldn't be everywhere. So I had to be standing on my point to score a point, because you can't afford to fall behind. But by doing so, he was not contesting or denying my opponent anything. And that was bad, because I've got 35 points. There's only ticking over scenario. So if he wanted to get stuck in there, I'd have to give up scenario. And you can't really afford to. You need to be scoring pretty much 3, your own 3 on your turn, almost every turn, because if you don't, if you for example, you only score 2 on your turn, your opponent could probably easily deny you 1 of those 2. So actually, you're only then going to score 1 of your opponents, and that's how they get ahead. And if as soon as you fall behind, you almost have to make bad plays just to stop you losing the game.
Yeah.
And if that is like, I'll run a unit here. Okay, so you've denied the score, but that unit hasn't killed anyone. So all they're going to do now is just die, and then your opponent's a unit up and still ahead on scenario. So
Did you have any other jacks? Any other jacks in your list?
I'd Juice
as well. So another one that wants to stand back as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. So, typically I did have the loadout on the Maelstrom that had guns, more guns.
Very on brand for Phil.
Very on brand, yeah.
King of the gun mages.
He's got a harpoon that pulls you in, so that was pretty good, because that's the 18-inch threat. If it hits, he just drags you into his power strength 23 hammer. The list writes itself. It's snipe, check. Power strength 23 hammer, check. So it's good fun. Yeah, I took care of Mark's Wyvern. First hit, crit knockdown on the spray. Drag him in, whack. It was fantastic. But then to do that, I had to move off the scenario point. So yes, Mark's lost an 18-point War Beast or whatever it is, but I'm a point down on scenario.
Yeah.
And so actually, that is not good.
It's so good hearing this, because the risk of becoming some kind of like cringe fanboy, which I hate being of anything other than my football team, Leeds United. There's so many good changes there, isn't there? Because you're absolutely right, Phil, that the oppressive thing about previous editions that you had to build for, you had to have an answer to this in one of your lists, was Stormwall sat contesting everything that mattered. You had to deal with it whilst also battling an oppressive feat, like you can't charge, or this is ridiculous armor, or I choose when you activate and you can't even charge it even if you could. That's such a positive change for making the game more appealing.
Because some of those 50 mil bases that it's scoring are out on the flanks as well.
Yeah, this one was. If you've
only got
payload,
I can't remember which one it is. Sorry.
That is one with it is on the outside, outskirts, and you get to drag it toward your opponent's scenario train.
Yes, yeah.
But by doing that, I was 25 inches away from my opponent's war beast, high value targets. Yep. So great, I've got a range 17 gun, can't use it.
But also,
I've got to kill basic infantry. It was like such a waste.
I'd need to check the rules on it, but so payload used to be so you'd move it up, but you had the option to like tow a beast or jack behind it. So basically, on your opponent's turn, you're still contesting and scoring potentially your own thing you've just moved. But with Stormwall, it can't move outside of its activation. So therefore, that would be a terrible thing.
Yeah. And so what I needed to do was put Juice on that side, and Stormwall needs to be opposite my opponent's, because he could then get stuck in, and he just walks 5 inches forward, and eventually I'll get there and use this massive hammer to mess things up. But small sample size, but loading up heavy warjacks, colossals with guns on both arms may not be good anymore.
No,
because you have to commit, and 35-ish points on a single model can't be everywhere like it used to be.
No,
you like you say, you could have Stormwall tiptoeing one zone, possibly a second zone on some of them, and then you could put a Storm Pod in a third zone. And you're like, it's just it was denying so much.
It's a small sample size, but you've read the game amazingly over the years. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've played hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games for years and years and years. So like, they're really valuable reflections, I think, of you just really quickly seeing that. And it is something Brett has said to me. I think it was off again. I think it was just a conversation. I don't think we'd recorded it. Me asking him about colossals and big bases, and that's exactly what he said. Was they're still good. They've definitely got a role on the table, and they're strong. But you do have to balance them against being able to force pressure in other areas of the board. It's a lot of points.
Yeah,
and
you probably want 2 warjacks / war beasts in a list, because you've got your own 50 mil base that you need to score, and you probably want to be doing something thinking about your opponents. So if you're taking a colossal, you probably still want a second heavy. So you have got 50-ish points invested in 2 models. Half your army is gone, and that's the thing. Very small sample size, but I'd be very surprised if you ever saw 2 on a table, because you wouldn't have anything left. You'd lose on scenario too fast.
Full disclosure, that Nationals event you came to visit us at, I'd been repping playing with my Scorn, and I'd been playing with a Mammoth in my list, and I knew that this Nationals was going to be my last ever event with Scorn because I was selling them off. And so I'd written this list out. It was great. An Exalted list was, it was Mammoth and a load of Stone guys. It was great fun to play with. And then I came to the event. I was like, but I'm never going to use my Hydra ever again. So I changed the list and put a Hydra in it as well. So I had a Mammoth and the Hydra, the two Gargantuans in that list. It turns out it's quite hard to play scenario with two. And Brett said, "Oh, don't change your list. You've been playing." I was, "Oh no, I need to play the Hydra. It's such a nice model." Yeah, it was a bad event for me. It was bad.
Bless you. Well, at least you're turning it off in style, mate. You put many games in with that.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely, it's not a good thing to have.
They've been toned down by the fact that the casters have changed. Yeah, they're not. There isn't the godlike, Epic Haley protecting your Stormwall from anything. Meanwhile, your Stormwall can out-threat pretty much anything thanks to temporal acceleration. It can have 5 focus and all the extra attacks. That's gone. So they're less good because of the Warcaster powering them, and then the changes to Steamroller has then toned them down and balanced them through no rule changes of the actual model. The game design has balanced them, and so they're not auto-include.
Yeah.
As much as it's a great model, it won't be in every list.
Which is as it should be. That's excellent.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's it? It looks good. You were sending us some pictures. It looks cool on the table. It's a big chunky boy. It's very on brand for big Warmachine Jack. Was it decent to assemble? Looks good on the table.
Yeah. So it's still 3D printed resin. But because everything is scaled up massive, it's fine. All the detail is detailed well because it's just so big. There was obviously a bit of, I wouldn't say mold lines, what the supports.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of them with the internal parts. So get your knife out and have a scrape round. So it probably took me about an hour or so to clean it up, but then everything just fit perfectly together. All the different parts. Nice. There's still got the pre-drilled magnet slots. So all the weapons, it took me longer probably to magnetize the thing together to make sure I don't mess up the polarity than anything else. But a couple of hours and it's together.
And Gav, you've been rocking the Necrofactory boys, the Necrofactorium.
The New Cricks. Yeah.
Necrofactory. So how's that been on the table? Because that's a big boy as well, isn't it?
Well, so when you asked me to talk about the big boy in Cricks, I was like, does he mean the Necro Harvester or does he mean the spoiled rules for the?
No. Well, I'm interested in both. I mean, if you've got the knowledge to talk about both, do. But
there was a mistake, wasn't there, when they updated the app? So some rules.
Oh, is that the thing that got leaked and then got disappeared? That wasn't leaked. All right.
Maybe we don't talk about that.
But is it good?
Oh, it looks amazing. I hope it stays like that. I'm so excited.
2 on pre-order.
Don't change it, Steam Forges.
Is that a list for doing? Yeah, that's good.
I've already written some lists for it. In fact, I bought a model for it already. To proxy it.
What's the Necro Factory boy like?
Oh, the Necro Harvester. That's it's a solo. So technically, it's a warrior model. So it's not a battle engine. It's on an 80mm base. So it's like the Zephyr that you've got in Signite. Yeah, fantastic. So it's on an 80mm base. So that just gives it some cool little rules. Means it can destroy some terrain if it touches, like things like a wall. You can come into contact with someone's defenses and destroy those, which is all your own if you're accidentally placed in the wrong position. Done that one.
That was a good use of a tactics card, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Place a wall, immediately destroy it. Oh.
Yep, done that. It's like, oh no, he's stepping over it. No, your base has touched it. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, it's gone. So the model itself is spectacular. Like, it's really, really cool. In fact, it's the one I was most excited to get my hands on when I saw it come out. So it's got those little the corpse crawlers with it, so it comes with 3 little solos that you can make. It's a harvester. It collects his corpses.
It's Craig stuff.
Yeah, it does Craig stuff. So it collects his corpses, and he can do a number of things with those. So he can either heal itself, or it can boost attacks and damage rolls, or it can make some little bombs. These little corpse crawlers.
What kind of role does it play in the list? Is it like a support piece?
So yeah, I've seen mixed reviews on it. I mean, I really like it as a sort of mid-table piece. What is really interesting is that because it's such an imposing model, your opponent thinks it's some sort of wrecking machine.
It's like, oh my god,
I'm going to kill that. It's really scary. I mean, yeah, it's okay. It's
like banging into terrain.
Yes,
knocking over walls. Like, oh,
blundering around, stepping over mechanical.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Clumsily falling.
Yeah, so it just looks really scary. So they're like, "Oh, I must send a heavy in to kill that." It's like, yeah, great, do that. That's only 8 points. Send it in. There's 6 point MK4 to take you out. So yeah, it tends to be for me sort of a mid table piece, sort of sat behind the first wave, collecting all the corpses, and then assisting later on. So it's really good for contestants. So we talked about scenario, didn't we? So it's an 8 point model that can sit at armor 20. So with 18 boxes, that's a really nice place to be. It can't be knocked down. It can't be pushed. It can't be moved. So once it's stood there contesting, you've got the only way of removing it is destroying it. So I really like that. I like that it's got a 3-inch melee with a drag. So a relatively slow army in Necrofactorium. So that's a pseudo threat extender.
Yeah.
So it's not going to kill a heavy by itself. It won't. So it is an undead model. It's not a construct. It is an undead model. So it benefits from the Furies. They've got like a special rule where they can give undead models +2 to their melee damage rolls. So it benefits from that as well.
Right.
And the more corpses it has, the harder it hits, up to the maximum +3. So it can go like power strength 15 with 2 attacks.
Is it bigger base than the Void Engine? It is, isn't it?
No, it's 80 mil as well. The Void Engine's just got like a really small, narrow
I got it there.
body.
A little skirt. So
it's a big chunk of lad. But so it can hit relatively hard. It can do 2 melee attacks, but it's got a few little janky things that are quite cool. So the way I try to describe it is it can do crit stuff. It can go from power 12 up to power strength like 20 easily. Just through crit applications, but it only makes 2 attacks. But then it can then summon these little corpse crawlers. But then because you've applied these debuffs, if they come into contact with you, they explode as well. So
right.
if you're melee with something,
Crit's life. That's Crit's life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Debuff stuff. Buff your stuff a bit and kill it with rubbish things.
Yeah. Then you throw the chaffer and they auto hit as well, which is quite nice. Yeah. So like playing against gun mages that are at def 50 and all these things, you just don't care. So there's
I confirm that, yeah,
you can. yeah. Phil can say that's definitely true. Yeah, but yeah, they're quite cool. So the Scarlock Thrall's got an ability that I think it's called Last Word. So you can put that onto them as well. So if they get destroyed, they can make a 3-inch advance, which is not limited by their normal advance. So normally when you activate them, they can only advance in a straight line. This Last Word, this 3-inch advance, isn't part of their normal movement, so they can go around corners, for instance, and go into the optimum place to explode in a unit. So when fighting against another melee army, it just do not feel fair at all. So for instance, like say my melee army's facing up against somebody else's melee list, one of those can scare away an entire unit. So if they commit to fighting me in the middle, which is obviously where we need to be for the scenario, you can send one of these guys into that unit with Last Word on it and say, right, so if you don't kill him, next turn he's going to blow your unit up. But if you do kill him, he's going to blow your unit up in your turn. So it's pretty cool.
What's the counter to that then?
Don't
kill
put
the
melee
unit.
lists into it's only a power 12, obviously, and there are ways of making that better. But yeah, they're really, really good into other units of single wound infantry.
Yeah.
So that's what I see them as their best use. They're not a heavy killer. It's the support that they provide. So you don't need to worry about your opponent's infantry. You can use those bombs to take them out. Which means your Mechanothralls can then focus on taking down the heavier stuff.
Yeah.
But you can't shoot these things because they've got 35 shield guards around them.
Yeah. So
now got shield guard.
Yeah, so the Mechanothralls can be shield guards if they've got a Scarlet Lieutenant within 10 inches of them.
That is really powerful.
It's really good. It is really good. And
I
obviously,
think they've got Vengeance. I feel like they've got Vengeance.
they have. Yeah.
So when you do shield guard, they move 3 inches in the next.
So it's lovely, Paul. You'd love it. So you can now interlace units. So you'd put like 3 units all woven into each other. So if your opponent shoots into one of your unit, you go, okay, well, I'll shield guard onto the other unit. So you trigger Vengeance on that unit now. Oh, right, okay. Well, I'll shoot here. Well, I'll shield guard into the other unit. So by the time they've made 3 shots, you've got 3 Vengeances now triggered. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It seems like you're really enjoying Crick. It seems like Crick's really good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm playing them as a run forward and fight people in the middle of the board, which is what I like
that's
doing.
What Storm.
It's a Storm thing, isn't it? But they've got some shooting stuff, but I've just not played it. So
yeah, fair. Yeah. Both on. What I like about this conversation is we're back. Basically,
definitely
we're back.
Definitely back. Enjoying the game. It's great fun.
We're back and we're on brand.
Yeah, okay.
Phil's trying to make some ridiculous signal lists, and Gav's just charges to forward and being up in the middle. I like it. We're back, folks. We're back on form, and I'm pleased that it doesn't sound like the colossals or auto includes, and they give you a little bit to think about. Because the game did reach a point where they were pretty much auto includes. Like if you're a men off player, you had a Judicator.
Yep.
If you're a Signal player, you had a Stonewall. If you're a Scorn player, you had a Hydra.
All of them.
Yeah, you had
all the big bases. Yeah.
Which in some ways was cool because like there was a reason I collected Imperial Knights when I played 40k when I got into 40k, and they just look cool on the table. Like, big models just look really ace.
Big centerpiece models, really. They sell the game really nice as well. So I've been at the club, and Brett's had his Archangel and his Raptor, from Circle on the table.
Yeah.
And other people from other games have gone, wow, what is that?
Yeah, they look amazing. They're really cool, really cool models. I'm glad that they're still playing a role in the game. Same with the battle engine style, the Necro Harvester, the Void engine. You still kind of got those models knocking around because Warmachine always looks better on the table than it does online. Every time, often when I talk to people about Warmachine, they go, "I'm not sure." I look at the model, I don't know. It's not until someone sees a game of fully painted armies with all the different variations of sculpts. And I think the other thing, just as like a final reflection, the other thing I think is really interesting about seeing them on the table is each army really does have a theme and a feel. And when you see the different size bases and models and units, it looks like an army rather than it being a bit disjointed or everything looking the same. There has the kind of a Warmachine army does look, I think, just look quite an interesting thing on the table, especially if it's centerpiece of a big lad. You got like a big lad. Unit
and I catch it. Yeah, each army does have its own unique theme, doesn't it? So it's it's not sci-fi, it's not fantasy. They're all a little bit different to some of the other games you see out there. So it's quite nice.
Yeah, definitely. What have you guys got coming up in your Warmachine life? What's next on you got another game plan? Phil, you got another game against Mark on the
there's an event at Outpost Sheffield, I think in about 2 weeks.
Brings back memories.
Yeah. I think it's been run by Golly or
really
Dom.
Right.
Yeah.
So they've got 12 sign-ups, and I'm like, it is only up the road. So
that's a bit of fun.
Maybe I should. And then there's Boarding Brum, so North Birmingham sort of area. They've already got their calendar on Longshanks with their event on every 2 months. So you can go on there and look through and go. You can plan in advance, which is nice.
Yeah.
So might make the rundown to that. That's at the end of March. But I'm still trying to weave in Marvel at the weekends. I've been at a Marvel event today. I think there's a Marvel event next weekend. So trying to double dip in 2 different games at the moment.
I lose
That's very unsanitary. Definitely.
Oh God, lowering the tone. I was on about the sherbety sweet. Jesus.
Yeah.
That's dib dab. That's different. So.
Yeah, but you double dip. Anyway,
it's where you get a Dorito and put it in the salsa, bite it, and then take another dip. That's it.
That's definitely that. Yeah, go on, guys.
But to be fair, I need to try and get another trip to York, get into the dojo. Because the thing we had with Mark yesterday is, obviously, we're both returning players. We were playing the game how we knew it, we remember it, with a few modifications, but then we're on the phone texting Gav and Brett.
So how does this rule work?
It's a post,
And so the
posted
game took us
rule
about
answers.
4 hours to play because we were like just constantly trying to look up, is that how it is now? It doesn't feel right. Let's just check this or check with the gurus.
Yeah.
Um,
The WhatsApp group became a chat GPT for Warmachine.
Yeah. But so there's a lot of things that trigger on advance, which used to be model by model. So you'd move a model, admonition will trigger. Now it's you move a model, the rest of the unit teleport.
Yep.
So you basically you do your movement, you do your teleport, then admonition triggers, or in this case it was counterblast. So it's just we're just checking the timings of that. And I had a unit, a model that was shadow bound. So he can't do anything, but he still gets teleported by his mates.
Yes.
So just seeing what that interaction was.
Yeah, fair question.
Just so people know that interaction is that so that model can't move. So somebody else in that unit can move, and he would then have to be teleported within 2 inches. But because he is unable to move, he then has to forfeit his action instead.
So he gets dragged along and then just stands there moping around.
Yeah.
Yes. But it was nice to know because usually you have one model at the front because he's the one you're trying to measure line of sight to and range. Mark's got these blowpipe dudes with Chimera, crit Shadowbound. I'm like, well, that's just took 3 inches off my threat range, hasn't it? You've not killed him, but I can't use him as my range finder anymore. Oh okay. That's a bit lame.
Yeah, it is a bit.
And of course, he was then desperately shooting my Maelstrom, trying to crit Shadowbind that, because that would have been upsetting.
That would be very upsetting.
Because that is 35 points
of not
in no man's land.
Yeah.
Not doing anything.
Yeah.
Just wiping stuff out of his eyes, oil out of his eyes.
Well, the issue he had, he was in these blowpipe views were in a wood, so I couldn't see him because of the 3-inch wood rule, but because I'm a colossal, presumably he can see me. So he was just blowpiping me with these stupid poison darts that can do 1 damage only, hoping to roll a crit. And because I'm only Def 11, he only needs a double 4 or higher, so he's got a fairly good chance. Sorry, a double 2 or higher. So there's a decent odds that he's going to get a crit on one of them. And this rubbish unit that I can't see is actually just disabled a 35-point colossal.
I love that unit. They can ambush as well. They were really good.
Yeah, they were fantastic. Yeah. The only downside is they can only do 1 damage. Yeah. It's not a case of if you fail to break, you do 1. They only do 1. So they're not going to kill anybody. But if they get that crit Shadowbind, oh my goodness.
Well, what about you, mate? What's your next game that you got lined up?
I need to get my models back from Andy Devine. he's borrowed my cricks just because he's not been able to get hold of any stuff. He's borrowed them for a time just to go to an event. So I was waiting for those to come back.
Leeds fan, good lad, top man.
So I've just been doing a bit of painting. I've actually finally, after 8 months of having
work by the sounds of it, you should be bloody working.
yeah.
Passing around in the...
I've not been at work today. I've just been doing some painting.
Good stuff, lads. I like this. I've not thought of a good name for it yet. Maybe I will, and then put it at the beginning of the video. But I like sort of like a little Sunday sit down to go through where we're at, what we're up to, what we're playing, have a little discussion. Hopefully, we'll get Dr. Wilkie on as well for these little sit downs. Keep them going on a Sunday. Although I don't know what day I'll put it out. I imagine it'll be like Monday, Tuesday by the time we get it out. But
yeah, that'll be cool.
Appreciate you guys having a chat with us. I feel reassured about the world of colossals and big bases.
Yeah, definitely not something to worry about. That I'm going to be facing colossals in every list. It's definitely not going to happen.
And not only that is because of the spell racking system, you've probably got access to an armor debuff or purification or something like that.
Yeah.
So you're not stuck playing a bad caster into a impossible arcane shielded stormwall because you've got -2 armor spell yourself. You might have purification, something like that. You've got an extra tool to deal with it.
Yeah, that spell rack's probably something we need to talk about at some point in the future as well. About how
go deep. Yeah, we'll go deep. The next
how it changes the game. Yeah.
Yeah, the next thing on the content plan is Steamroller pack. Us going into the Steamroller. What's changed, where it's at, how does it play, some of the nuances I've been talking about. So we're gonna dive into the Steamroller next, and then we'll keep dipping into it. Appreciate you both. Thanks for chatting.
Good to be chatting.
And I'll speak to you boys soon.
We'll see you again.